In the Fellowship of the Ring, there's a moment most people don't question. The Fellowship enters Moria, disturbs something ancient, and awakens a terror of fire and shadow, Durin's Bane. A creature so powerful that even Gandalf barely survives the encounter. But here's what doesn't make sense. If something like this still existed in Middle-earth, why wasn't it fighting for Sauron? Why didn't it march with his armies? Why didn't it destroy Minas Tirith, or crush the West in a single blow? Because the truth is, the Balrog wasn't Sauron's ally. It wasn't hiding. And more importantly, it may never have answered to him at all. And the reason why reveals something even darker about the true nature of power in Middle-earth. Welcome back to the channel. Let's get started.
A Balrog, a demon of the ancient world.
On paper, it seems obvious. A Balrog is one of the most destructive beings left in Middle-earth, a creature of shadow and flame, born from the same ancient corruption that shaped all of Sauron's power. So, naturally, the assumption is simple. If Sauron is gathering every dark force for the War of the Ring, the Balrog should be at the center of it. After all, Sauron commands orcs by the thousands. He bends men to his will. Even the Nazgul, once kings, exist as extensions of his power. So why not the Balrog? Why leave a weapon like that buried beneath Moria, when it could have shattered armies and broken kingdoms? Because this assumption hides a critical misunderstanding. It treats all evil in Middle-earth as one unified force, as if everything dark ultimately answers to Sauron. But that was never true. And to understand why, you have to go back to the time before Sauron was ever a Dark Lord.
He was taken by both shadow and flame. A Balrog of Morgoth.
Long before the rise of Sauron, there was another name that defined evil in Middle-earth, Morgoth. This is where the story truly changes, because the Balrogs were not mindless monsters, and they were never Sauron's creations. They were Maiar, spirits of immense power who existed before the shaping of the world itself, the same order of being as Sauron. But where Sauron became Morgoth's most cunning servant, the Balrogs became his most terrifying. They were weapons of war, commanders of fire and shadow. In the great battles of the First Age, they didn't lurk in the background. They led charges, broke armies, and struck fear even into the elves of the West. And among them was one that would survive, hidden beneath the mountains, Durin's Bane.
You know what they awoke in the darkness of Khazad-dûm. Shadow and flame.
But here's the detail that changes everything. Sauron did not stand above them. He stood beside them. Both were servants of Morgoth. Both answered to the same master, which means when Morgoth fell, there was no natural successor, no throne for Sauron to inherit, no command over the Balrogs to claim, only a void where absolute power once existed. And in that void, each of these ancient beings was left to its own fate.
If the mountain defeats you, will you risk a more dangerous road?
After the fall of Morgoth, at the end of the First Age, Middle-earth didn't just lose its greatest tyrant, it lost its center of power. Because Morgoth wasn't just a ruler, he was a force that bound other dark beings to his will. His dominance was absolute. The Balrogs followed him, not because they were simply evil, but because he was powerful enough to command them. Sauron inherited none of that authority. Yes, he rose to become the new Dark Lord. Yes, he built armies, forged the One Ring, and bent entire nations to his will. But Sauron's power worked differently. He dominated the weak. He corrupted men. He controlled orcs through fear and force. But a Balrog, that's something else entirely. Like Sauron, it was a Maiar, an ancient spirit of the same order, not a servant by nature, but a being of its own will, its own power, its own purpose. To command something like that, Sauron wouldn't just need influence. He would need total domination. And there's no clear evidence he was ever strong enough to achieve that. Which means the Balrog in Moria wasn't ignoring Sauron. It was existing outside his reach. If you enjoyed the video so far, don't forget to drop a like. So, If Durin's Bane wasn't serving Sauron, what was it doing? The answer is far more unsettling than simple loyalty or rebellion. It was hiding. After the defeat of Morgoth, the surviving Balrogs fled. The world had changed. The great wars of the First Age had ended, and the powers that once shaped Middle-earth had either fallen or withdrawn. And so, this Balrog vanished beneath the misty mountains. For thousands of years, it remained dormant, buried deep beneath Khazad-dûm, long before it became known as Moria, not building armies, not seeking dominion, simply waiting. Until the dwarves dug too deep, and when they awoke it, the result was catastrophic. A kingdom destroyed, a people driven into exile. But here's the key detail. Even then, the Balrog didn't leave. It didn't march to Mordor. It didn't seek out Sauron. It stayed in the shadows, which suggests something far more dangerous than obedience. Not allegiance, but isolation. As if this ancient being had no interest in Sauron's war at all, and perhaps no reason to risk revealing itself, even to another Dark Lord.
Do as I say! Swords are no more use here.
By the time of the War of the Ring, Sauron had rebuilt much of his former strength. Armies stretched across Mordor. The Nazgûl had returned. Even distant kingdoms began to fall under his shadow. From the outside, it looked like Sauron was becoming exactly what Morgoth once was. But the Balrog exposes the truth. Because if Sauron truly held the same level of power, then Durin's Bane would not have remained in Moria. It would have been summoned, or enslaved, or destroyed. Instead, it remained untouched. And that tells us something critical. Sauron's dominion was never absolute. He ruled through systems, rings, armies, fear, manipulation.
One ring to rule them all.
His strength was vast, but it relied on control over those weaker than himself. Morgoth was different. Morgoth commanded beings like Balrogs because his power overwhelmed even the strong. Sauron could not do that, which means there were still forces in Middle-earth that did not answer to him. Not because they opposed him, but because they existed on a level he could not fully dominate. And in the end, that's what the Balrog represents. Not a missed opportunity, but a limit. A reminder that even at the height of his power, Sauron was not the master of all evil, only the master of what he could control. The Balrog wasn't missing from Sauron's war. It was never his to command. Sauron ruled through fear, armies, and control. But the Balrog came from an older power, one that answered only to Morgoth. And when Morgoth fell, that power didn't pass on. It fractured, which means in the War of the Ring, Sauron didn't command all evil, only the evil he could dominate.
You have no power here, servant of Morgoth.
If you like this kind of video, join the channel and leave a like for more content like this. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.
One ring to rule them all.